Hey, this is Mr. Hanson. I wanted to talk with you about multiplying integers. Integers are numbers on the number line, whole numbers that could be positive or negative. You know quite a bit about multiplying positive integers together and have probably memorized most of the times tables, but I want to talk about what happens when we multiply a positive integer by a negative integer or a negative integer by a negative integer. So let's start out with a problem. Let's go 6 times negative 3 equals, and maybe you know the answer already, but we're going to hold off for just a second. And I'm going to rewrite this. 6 times 3 minus 3 equals, and for the second one, this if you do what's in parentheses first, 3 minus 3 is 0, and 0 times 6 is 0. So that whole thing equals 0. And let's go ahead and distribute this out. So we're using the distributive property here. We're taking 6 times 3, so 6 times 3 plus 6 times negative 3. And since it's the same thing as what's above, it equals 0 again. And you know what 6 times 3 is? That's 18. And so my question for you is, 18 plus what number is 0? What number plus 18 is 0? If you said negative 18, you're right. And so 6 times negative 3 is equal to negative 18. And up here, a positive times a negative equals a negative. So 6 times negative 3 equals negative 18. Okay, let's take a look at this idea of a negative times a negative. Let's go negative 2 times negative 5, and we're going to hold off on considering what it equals for a minute. But let's use the distributive property. So negative 2 times 5 minus 5, and we kind of set this up so that 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. And so we know this whole thing equals 0, because 0 times negative 2 is 0. Okay, so let's distribute here. Negative 2 times 5 plus negative 2 times negative 5 equals 0. Negative 2 times 5 has got to be negative 10, because just a minute ago we said a positive times a negative is a negative, plus something equals 0. And that something, negative 10, we want it to be a positive 10. So negative 2 times negative 5 equals positive 10. And so a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, let's take a look at, let's extend this just a little bit more. What if we had negative 1 times negative 1? That's going to be positive 1. Times that positive 1 by negative 1, that's going to be negative 1. What if we had negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1? Well, we've got two pairs there. Each pair makes a positive 1, so it would be positive 1. And if we had negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, if that's positive 1 here, positive 1 there, times negative 1, and be negative 1. So whenever you have an odd number of negatives, this one's 3, this one's 5, you will have when you're multiplying an odd number of negatives, you will have a negative answer. Hopefully this helps you think a little bit about multiplying positives and negatives. Thank you very much.